All right, so welcome back to Airman Romero. It's been a minute since I put a video up. I think the last video I put up was the night we came back from dropping Julian off at MEPS for his ship out date. Pretty wild experience, right? Just to recap everything. We didn't do any of that stuff when I went through. I went to my recruiter's office. They put us on a van. It was me and this guy, Josh Chappell, who was from Kingsville. It's hard to believe I can remember that. We drove up together, stayed at Ramada Inn in San Antonio, went to MEPS that next day, and then headed to Lackland Air Force Base that evening and started our military journey. This time we're actually able to take him up to the hotel, which is still in San Antonio, the MEPS location, and stayed the night there. We didn't get to have breakfast with him because they left so early, but we were able to see him off. And then we kind of just caught up with him. We were able to go to the MEPS station there on Fort Sam Houston and just kind of hung out, right? It was a big hurry up and wait kind of day, just waiting for the phone call when they were going to go and do their swear in. And we got to see him again, got to have some words with him, got some pictures with him, and then they were on their merry way. I think we got a phone call that night to say he got there. It may have been that night or the next night when we got back. It was a very different ride home from our normal rides from San Antonio. We're there quite frequently. We'd go there a lot as a family. We used to live there for 6 years while I was active duty, stationed at Brooks City Base, which is no longer in existence. Thank you, Brack. And yeah, it was just different. And I think we got the phone call that night, said he was okay, he made it, or it may have been the next day. I think it was the next day. I thought it was 72 hours, but it was actually, we got it within 48, and he just kind of let us know where he was, and he would let us know that he'd get us a picture with our address, which we got. And I think that was the last phone call we got for a while until maybe week 2. I don't really remember. I know we got a week 3 phone call. I got a phone call on Father's Day, which was nice. He really didn't realize it was Father's Day. It was Sunday, June 15th, just recently, last week. And I got a letter from today and said, happy belated Father's Day. He said he totally forgot. He was just excited to hear our voices and talk to us, which same for us, right? I didn't expect anything. He's got so much on his mind right now. They all do, right? They all do. And then we got another phone call on Saturday. I was at work. My wife was visiting my mom. So we had to split the phone call. He had, I think, 15 minutes. So I got a few minutes with him, just kind of talked about everything he was going, gave him a little pep talk, really. And then my wife talked to him for 10 minutes or so, and same thing. Sounds like they're still having some difficulties as a flight. You know, he was like, told us in his last letter that, hey, everything's going great. We're coming together. And his letter today that I got from him pretty much said, hey, remember, it's like almost immediately after I said that, it went bad. But, you had to reassure these guys, right? It's group dynamics, right? And I mentioned in one of my short videos that there's 4 stages, right? Storming, forming, norming, and performing, right? And a lot of times in group dynamics, you never get out of the storming or norming phase, right? Sometimes you're stuck there, and that's just the hand you're dealt, right? And especially you get a bunch of guys in a group together who are young and never been in any type of leadership situation, or you have a strong leader or maybe 2 strong leaders and they butt heads, and it's leadership followership kind of thing, and it doesn't work cohesively in a group. And they'll learn that as time comes, right? To be a good leader, you've got to be a good follower, and some folks aren't used to that yet, right? It's a learning process. So that's the situation they're in right now. When we talked to him on Saturday, he's come down, he's under the weather, and it sounds like, looking at some groups on Facebook, that it's going around. And it's normal. I had to tell my wife that they all get sick, right? You've got people from all over the country, maybe even different parts of the world, coming together and sleeping in a petri dish, essentially, right? Because you've got different germs and things like that. So they're all going to get sick. It usually happens earlier than week 4, usually around week 2 or week 3, but it looks like it's happening a little later, maybe because of the summer weather. I don't know. But he came down with a respiratory infection, went down to the clinic and got some meds, and then they kind of sent him on his merry way. He's toughing through it, and I'm assuming they all are, so that's a good thing. They started week 4 today, and week 3 and week 4 in BMT is when everything kind of starts coming together, right? This is the point in BMT where everything should start becoming easier for the trainees and easier for the TIs, right? Because they're not yelling as much anymore. They're more mentoring, teaching kind of things instead of forcing information down your throat and correcting any little thing that you're doing wrong, right? The groove they're in now is what the yelling was accomplishing. The high-pitched tones, I guess, instead of, you don't want to say yelling, right? This is the point they wanted to get them to where they can operate as a machine now, right? As a group. They got their blues last week. I mentioned that in one of my short videos. They had their second fitting. And one of the things I noticed is that they don't have to shine shoes anymore, right? So that stopped a while back. When I went through BMT in the 90s, we didn't have patent leather shoes. We had leather shoes, and we had the old black jump boots. So we had to polish those, right? You had to polish your boots, had to polish your shoes, and it was an inspection item. Midway through my career, we switched to ABUs and went to suede boots. So that went out the window, right? No more polishing boots. But I thought you still had to polish your shoes. No, they get the new patent leather core frame shoes now. So no more polishing at all. It kind of helped, in my opinion, the attention to detail part. But who am I to say what's needed and what's not needed? So some things, you've got to bring some important things in. You got to take some stuff out, right? To make the Air Force is transitioning, right? It changes all the time. The only constant thing in the military is change, and it changes, right? So you put a little less importance on this, and you got to put a little more importance on this, right? Because this is what's the hot button topic right now, and this is what needs to be addressed. So I get it. So that's actually pretty cool. So they got their blues last week, and now this week they'll be getting their flight and individual photos, right? So they'll get their nice group shot somewhere. Ours was by our dorms back in the 90s. I don't know where they do it now, probably at the pad, the Kingston Reception Center, where they've got that giant pad, which was not around when I was there. It's actually a very nice facility. And then they got their individual photos, right, where the one you as a parent will get, their nice military posed photo with the American flag in the background, probably the Air Force flag in the background as well. More training this week. They got a lot of classroom stuff. These are also nice breaks for the trainees, because when I was there, you had your academic instructors and then you had your flight instructors. And the academic instructors were a little more relaxed, right? Because they're teaching you things. They're not there to yell at you, and because a lot of stuff turns people off, right? You're getting yelled at constantly. You're not going to pay attention. You're going to be on edge all the time, and you're just worried about doing something wrong versus actually taking the knowledge in. So I get that part, and I think that's actually a very good tool that they use with your academic instructors and your flight instructors. They've got their SAPR training this week, which is your sexual response prevention and sexual assault prevention and response course. You've got your laws of war courses, which is probably covering LOAC, which is the law of armed conflict, and your Geneva Conventions. You got your CBRN classes this week, which is chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, explosive, which is going to come in handy for week 6 when they have Pacer Fords. That's when they'll get that knowledge and be able to apply it in their little real world village that they have out there. And then OPSEC. Right, if you've been watching the news lately, OPSEC is huge right now. It's operational security. Probably the biggest thing that they stress in the military altogether is operational security. And then your military history, right? How did the Air Force get where it is? Who are the people involved that got the Air Force to where it is? It's going to be past history. It's going to be current history, and just things that are going on today. They've also got a set of appraisals that are going to be happening this week, right? You've got your open ranks and your dress and appearance. They've got their blues, right? So next week, week 5, all they're going to be wearing is their blues. No OCPs next week, right? So it's all blues, so they've got to learn to wear their uniform right? So if they got their initial issue last week, I'm guessing over the weekends, they started cutting all their strings off their blue shirts, short sleeves, long sleeves, and whatnot, and their hats and their pants, right? Because those are all appraisal items. They're going to look at that stuff, attention to detail, right? They're going to look at their living area. They're going to do those types of inspections as well. Look at their beds, make sure their beds are made correctly, make sure their wall lockers set correctly, make sure their spacing of all their uniforms are set correctly. It's a lot, right? It's a lot going on. And the living appraisals, Julian's kind of having a hard time with his hospital corners and making his bed. You know, I had told him a while back in a letter, what we used to do is we made our bed once and kind of just slid under the blankets, right? And just held it over us like a bug, a little snug bug in a rug, right? And he said, yeah, we were told we couldn't do that. We have to make our beds every morning. So whatever, at least they tried it. It was frowned upon. So I guess they couldn't do that anymore. But that was definitely, it saved a lot of time, right? Because making your bed every morning takes a lot of time. They've also got something which is called airman's time, right? And it's a relaxed environment. No reporting statements are required. And it's mostly to talk about life events, right? And it allows these kids to think outside the box a little bit and not to be afraid to ask questions, not to be worried about doing anything incorrectly, kind of like what I said with the academic instructors, not have to worry about getting yelled at for asking a question that may seem dumb. But there are no dumb questions, right? Especially now when they're learning all this information. But, you know, people feel differently about things. So it'll allow them to speak more, right? My son's a big introvert, right? He's not a big talker. He's not very loud. So this is good for those types of folks and just everybody in general. Going back to the dress and appearance and the blues. So back in May, we went up to Utah to Hill Air Force Base to go see a friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, for her chief, master sergeant induction ceremony, right? And this is a big deal, right? Because there's only 1% of active duty Air Force that serve in the E9 role. And I've known this individual, God, longer than I've known my wife. You know, she grew up with Julian. She used to babysit Julian. She was stationed in San Antonio at the same time we were. She would stay at her house. She'd watch our dog. I mean, we were stationed together in North Carolina. I mean, we've known each other for over, like I said, I've known her longer than my wife. We've known each other forever. So it's the least I could do is go support my friend. And we also wanted to expose Julian to these things, right? Because when I was active duty, Julian was 4, 5, 6, 7. I think he was 8 when I retired. So he didn't go to any of these events, right? Mostly because he couldn't. My wife went to plenty of them. But we wanted to allow him to see these types of events, these things that he's going to be seeing in the military, and just kind of the environment that he's going to be in. So that it was a very nice ceremony. And while I was there, you know, I ran into Chief Master Sergeant retired Juan Lewis. For those of you guys who are on social media, follow Air Force pages, he's known as the Fired Up Chief on Facebook. I don't know if he's got a Twitter or a YouTube page, but he's always posting, right? And he's full of pep, right? You've got to refill your pep. That's his big thing, right? When I was at the NCO Academy, or Non-Commissioned Officers Academy at Lackland back in 2007, I think he actually spoke to our class while we were there. And I think he had just gotten there from Edwards. He was the command chief at Edwards. And this is when the first Transformers movie came out. So he's talking about how they were pulling some of their heroes. That's his big word, right? Everybody is his hero, right? Hey, hero, how are you doing? Hey, hero, how's your pep? Very solid dude, very opinionated guy. And he's full of energy. And, you know, we got to talking when we were in line. You know, he actually knows my friend. And he's like, yeah, that's my girl, you know. And he actually gave me a great idea. And it took me forever to find these things, right? But I went and in a dark corner in my closet in a little cubby that I had, I found my old name tags. And these are actually going in the mail today. I'm going to send these to Julian because I don't know if he can, but I think it'd be really cool if he could wear these, right? I've never had anything passed down to me like that for anything, like anything sentimental or things like that. And I figure, you know, we have a common bond in serving in the Air Force, and I figure, hey, why not, right? It'd be really cool. It's a nice gesture. And yeah, I'm going to send these to him today, and hopefully he can wear them during week 5 and wear them during graduation. And kind of another way to bond us, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. So those are going to go out in the mail probably in the next 20 minutes. I'm going to, as soon as I get done with this video, I'll send it out and get him on his way. Hopefully we'll get him this week before week 5 and he can get him on his uniforms. But thanks, Chief, for that idea. That's actually a very cool idea. But that's, you know, that's pretty much it. You know, that's week 4. That's what they got going on this week. Next week's a big week for these guys. They've got their PT tests. Next week, their final appraisals. They've got more dress and appearance, things like that. And they're going to be doing a lot more things in the field to get ready for Pacer Forge in week 6. But that's all I have this week. I'm going to try to be a lot better about posting these longer 5 to 8 minute, 10 minute videos, just because, you know, I was so busy since then, you know, trying to keep busy to keep my mind off Julian, right? And so I've been I think in the last 27 days since we sent him off, I've probably been off 3 days. Right, so we've been working a lot and we're required, right? It's not just showing up to work. We've got a lot of stuff going on at work, and stuff just needs to get done. There's just not enough of us to get stuff done. So again, I'll go back to work. I have a training class tomorrow, and I go back to work on Wednesday, and I'll be working probably till next Friday. The 4th would probably be my last day off, or last day working, and then I'll finally get a little break, and then I head back to nights on Monday, and then. Man, that's graduation right around the corner, right? They've essentially got 2 weeks left, right? Because week 7, you really don't count it. They graduate on Wednesday and Thursday. Monday, Tuesday is just graduation prep, right? They're probably going to have graduation practice Monday and Tuesday, probably over the weekend. And just getting everything ready, right? Getting all the last little pieces into place. So it's going to be it's going to go by quick. It's going to go by really quick. It's already Monday. It's going to be Tuesday tomorrow. And man, it'll be week 5 before we all know it. But again, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying the shorts that I'm putting out, these 2 to 3 minute shorts, just kind of talking about my day and what's going on during the week with the trainees and with Julian and ourselves. But thanks for watching, guys. Tell your friends, and we'll see you hopefully next week.